You have reached Gila Nehemia's Collaboration Ascension series, and I am really excited to interview Ashley Sunshine. If you don't know me, I am a erotic self-love mentor, poet, author, and a spiritual heart guide. And I've been doing this series for over a year, and I actually met Ashley, I don't know, like a couple of years ago. I remember a few years ago. I think I went to your moon circle and in Tel Aviv, and then I went to a retreat with them. So that was really fascinating. And now here we are in a different space. So I will introduce Ashley, and then we'll get into some questions. Ashley Sunshine is a fire starter yogini and Dharma coach, a serial entrepreneur whose sole mission is to embody creativity, freedom, and deep trust in the self and the universe. She holds programs, retreats, yoga spaces, and ceremonies to support others to discover and live their purpose and make great money doing it. Wow, that is fun. Thank you, Ashley, for being here today.
Thank you, Gila. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, so sweet. So yeah, I wanted to, to just tell us a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get into be this fire starter yogini? Was that always your path? Were you studying yoga since you were a child? Like, give us some background.
All right. Well, I'm so happy I found the path of yoga, and yoga was really my entryway into the spiritual world and into discovering, more of my own personal truth. My stepmom brought me to my first yoga class when I was 16. And I remember, I think it was either the first or second class during Shavasana, which is like the final laying down at the end of the yoga class. The teacher gave us a guided visualization. And I'm a 16-year-old, kid. I'm skeptical. I'm like, but I laid down, and this woman brought us through this visualization of golden light coming from the top of our head and going down into every cell of our body and all the body parts. And I was 100% there with her. And it was like a magical experience where I finally, I was able to see a different dimension of myself and my being and my life. And it felt so good and so fun. And it just left me hungry for more and to understand, what happened there. And so that was my first little taste. And then I went to university and kind of just went on the regular path that the previous generation has, set forth, that we're supposed to go to university and study science or math or something that's profitable and go get a job, put ourselves in debt so that we can go get a job and pay it off and buy a car and, all those things. And so I was on that path. And I joined the yoga club in university. So I had my yoga practice, and I was developing it and starting to understand more, and was feeling really frustrated with my classes in university, feeling like they weren't going deep enough, feeling like I was studying physics, and because I wanted to understand the nature of this universe, and it wasn't giving me the satisfaction. And I discovered at Penn State University in the US, a co-op. So it's like two houses that were living in a cooperative. It was students living in a cooperative, and they grew a big tomato garden and sold their tomatoes and had chickens and sold their eggs and lived really in this community, creating parties for, activist fundraising and all these conscious things. And I was like, oh, something is making sense here. Like something that is totally missing in our day-to-day life and in the way that we live is present here. And like, what is that? And it really, I'm getting the chills thinking about it. Like just this total shift in my perception of life, and how the thing, like I could finally label what I felt was missing. Mm-hmm. And that was living closer to each other and living closer to the earth. And it was like a revelation. And so I switched my major to environmental studies because I wanted to understand more about the nature of the earth and the environment and how it all works together, the systems that are in place, because I realized that if we can mimic those systems in our life, then we can be happier people. And also yoga, really, I was continuing on my path of yoga and found a teacher named Erica Kaufman of Lila Yoga. who was a real game changer for me in relating the yogic practices to nature. Really, getting into tree pose and being like a tree, and using, not just being in tree pose because that's what it's called and this is the shape of what it is, but really taking that opportunity to embody. So I understood, more and more how to really connect with nature through my external world and also through my internal world. And that was really the big turning point for me. And then I went into a year after university. I had like a early life crisis where I was like, where I realized I'm in debt now of a lot of money, and I don't want to work in these corporate situations. And like, what do I do? I'm a slave now. I felt like I'm now, in the system, and how am I supposed to get out of this? So I worked in corporate for a year to kind of play in that water, and slowly realized that it wasn't for me, that it was making me depressed, that it was, that I felt my life force energy was going to be so much more useful in other places, and I need to find out what that is. So eventually, serendipitously, with lots of synchronicities helping me, I ended up quitting my job, selling my car, giving away or selling all of my stuff, and going on a trip. And I went to New Zealand for a year.
Nice.
Yeah. And studied more yoga, taught yoga, worked on different farms, studied horses and how to work with horses. And that's really, where I was like, okay, like the world is my oyster, and I need to discover myself through the earth and discover more of my connection. And from there, there's many more stories and there's many more parts of my journey, but really that's what kicked it off. And I just kept following my, getting closer and closer to what my intuition is really saying. And then following that. And I realized through that journey that your intuition, will always lead you to the right place, and that we can trust our intuition, and we can trust the world to take care of us when we're in line with our intuition and our alignment. And now I'm here. Now I'm here and teaching yoga and doing coaching and just looking for more ways to help in assisting the ascension of humanity, helping people to wake up to their own intuition and their own powers to really create the life of their dreams. And in that process, encouraging others as well to live the life of their dreams. Because when we do that ourselves, we give permission to others to do that as well.
Yes, so true. That's actually why I started the series. And because everyone has different paths, a lot of my work, is all about the heart and intuition. And actually, I think we were kind of in parallel universes. I found, I grew up with yoga, but I found it in university going to the philosophy, the spiritual side, and connecting with nature. But that really wasn't my focus. It was like later on that I was more into how they all intersected. It was different parts to me when I was, kind of in my path. But it's just so fascinating how people find these things and how they just move with it, and I think that's what's really great, from your perspective, anyone who's listening, if you're not sure where to go, I think, from listening to Ashley's part of her story anyway, it was just following those breadcrumbs and allowing yourself to just explore them, like with the co-op. And, we had that in school too. And I just thought, wow, it's so cool to like be a part of a community and eat from the earth and, share that with other people. And, I remember being in Brooklyn and we were part of a co-op there too. And, it was just like all these extensions, and when I don't know about you, but when I look at my life from like I get reflective about it, I was like, yeah, this actually all kind of fits together. It's brought me to this place now, even though it seems like odd, but that's, we don't need to really analyze while we're moving, right? It's more of like just allowing and exploring.
Yeah.
So that's super fascinating.
Yeah. And then reflecting on what we did afterward and realizing the beautiful unfolding of life that happens as we allow life to flow. It's like that John Lennon quote, like, or was it, what's her name? His like partner,
Yoko Ono.
like maybe it was Yoko Ono. That life happens while you're busy making plans.
Yeah, that's one of his songs. Yes, totally. We were actually singing his songs at Moon Circle here in my neighborhood. So
Beautiful.
funny that you mentioned him. Yeah, but I feel like actually just bringing him up, like he was definitely way before his time. You know, I think many of his lyrics just really ring true, as many others as well. But yeah, I just feel that whole idea of imagining, you know, imagining a life where we are really all one, you know, without color, without, just the whole idea of comparison. And how, you know, when you talked about being in the corporate world, competition, you know, comparison, those are the things that come to my mind. And it kind of makes sense, you know, coming from this yogic, you know, perspective and being part of the earth. You know, when it's circular, it's no longer a line, right? It's no longer a hierarchical line. It's this circular, open-ended togetherness, you know, and I think yoga lends itself to that. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I love yoga. I think yoga really appealed to me because it wasn't competitive. Like it was really a growing within myself. Like the only person that I can really compare myself with is myself. And that as long as I'm continuing to get to know myself more, then I'm doing a good job. Like as long as I'm continuing to expand my own edges and explore into my own unknowns, then I'm doing the yoga. And when when we have a classroom of people or we have a circle of people, it's like the yoga really teaches us how to center in your own self and know that as you are centered in yourself and you are part of the whole, and that everyone else is actually a mirror for you and not something that you need to compare yourself to or not something that you need to become, but something that's reflecting a certain aspect of yourself. So as we sit in circle, as we are in a classroom, we're using the energy from the other students, from the other people to uplift us and to show us parts of ourselves that might be harder for us to see if we were just by ourselves. But we're like the work of yoga and the teaching of yoga and the real like gift of yoga is to how to stay centered in your own self and to know thyself and to continue to more deeply know thyself so that you're able to make decisions in every moment towards your own life of bliss, towards your own life to reaching that, you know, not reaching, but to experiencing samadhi, which is the final stage of yoga, or the bliss, you know, of that lies dormant within every single one of us. And we each have little moments where we experience it just for a moment, and then it might like close back up again. And our job is to find out how to listen to the body so that we get that feedback information to tell us how to make those micro decisions in the micro moment, to more align ourselves to our natural state, which is samadhi, which is bliss, which is unity, union, connection with all things. And it's really beautiful. And I'm so honored to be on this path and to be sharing this wisdom with others, because basically like I'm working on that every day. I'm practicing that every day. Like, how do I follow my timeline of ecstasy? How do I make micro decisions in micro moments to choose bliss and know that it's here and now with me in every moment? And how do I use the tools that are available to me in life, which are, you know, gatherings with other people, which are, you know, going on group journeys, which are being in nature and different, you know, different interactions that we have. How do I use all of those things to inform my deeper bliss and my bigger expansion? And I love how these ancient teachings of yoga are talking about the same thing that, you know, the new age, you know, spiritual communities are speaking about now. and all the tantra that's happening and the priestess work and the circles and the different kinds of healing, theta healing and energy work, it's all going to that same place. And I think that it's all, that yoga is one of those things that has started to go mainstream, that more and more people can start to have their entryway into that awakening, to that ascension. And then they get to a place where they're like, okay, now I have a whole menu of things I can choose from that will maybe, help awaken me deeper and go deeper.
Fantastic. I love that. You touched upon a lot of different things in terms of ascension and unity consciousness and even bliss consciousness. So I just was wondering, getting back to what you're doing, like how do you integrate yoga into the practice of helping people to build businesses? Is that like a central part of your teaching? I think that would be really important for our viewers to understand.
Yeah. Yes. Amazing. So definitely I use yogic principles and yogic, like the central yogic understanding for building your business. It's like the yoga of business. Like your business can actually do yoga. Your business should meditate. Your business should stretch. Your business should check in with itself. And it's like, okay, there's like many different parts. So let's just keep it really simple. First of all, like, okay, your business should meditate. So meditation is actually on the far end of the 8 limbs of yoga. So there's 8 limbs of yoga that were set forth as the first kind of scientific step-by-step approach to reaching the state of bliss, of unity. And your business, can reach that state of bliss and unity as well as an entity. And that would be that, this, you can think for yourself of like, if my business is really in bliss, if my business is really thriving and it's this, in unity, then what does it look like? Let's think about that. And that means, what supplies are you using? Is that connected to the earth? Is that helping? Is that stewarding the earth? What is your waste? And is that, that's just like the basics. And we can go even deeper and like, how are we really serving people? Are we taking from them? Or are we really, escalating and serving them so that it continues to expand and grow? Because as we reach the state of bliss, what we understand from the physics is that things are expanding. Everything in the universe wants to expand. So when you're in a state of like if you're in a state of like no blockages, then you're going to continue to expand. So when you think about it, you can kind of measure or map it out. Like, okay, my business is XYZ. And if my business was in total bliss and expansion, what would it look like? And then we have kind of a roadmap to get there. And so in yoga, we have the yamas and the niyamas. That's the first step, which is the 10 commandments of yoga. And the very first thing there is ahimsa, non-harming. So this is the first step of like really showing up in kindness and compassion and love for humanity and love for the self, and knowing that our business and our lifestyle should build on each other, and that our business should actually be very kind to ourself and to our lifestyle. And this is like the biggest unwinding that we have to do in terms of business, because so many people think that you have to work hard and suffer to make a successful business. And that is the first step of yoga. That's like, stop inducing harm by choosing suffering. You don't need to suffer. And it kind of loops back around, like, because your business should be from a place of bliss, So it's cool because the ends meet. But, so we have stages along the way, and meditation is like kind of far on the like advanced level, right? We have to like prepare ourselves for that meditation. So how do we do that? And the universe, when we look at the way the universe works, and we look at the way that all the elements are working around us, we see that things happen in cycles. Everything is cyclical. And this is part of yoga. We have to study the universe. That's why I was interested in physics. Because like, we have to study the universe to understand our consciousness and to understand how to best optimize our experience here on the planet. So everything is cyclical. So we can enter in our lifestyle and our business into that cyclical nature. And so, for example, that could mean, having a ceremony with your business every week, right? Like really sitting and feeling all the energetics of your business, like feeling, okay, money, okay, relationships, okay, lifestyle, okay, levels of joy, how much work am I doing? Who are my team? How much money am I spending? What are my goals? What are my dreams? What are my visions for my business? How is it serving humanity? How is it serving my lifestyle, right? It's like all those things. And there's so many moving parts. And so yoga teaches us to slow down and like go into ceremony, go into meditation with our business and feel into it. And each of us has a Dharma. Each of us has a purpose, soul codes. There's many different ways to talk about it that are going to inform what is our best role. How do we best use our energy? And so when we go into ceremony with our business, we can call in, our own wisdom and our own Dharma to say, okay, what's working, what's not working, and how do I best find the harmony? And through that simple process of slowing down and going into sacred space with your business, the answers come. And that is what's so beautiful about it is that the wisdom is already there. Everything is already laid out for us in a way. And we get to create, we have a say in it. It's not like, it's all done and we have a say, but we can just rest in that space of intention and I want to say desire, but intention and desire. And then let the wisdom come. So I feel like this is something that's so needed right now, even though there's so much else with business, there's lots of practical stuff and I'm super into practical, I call myself a fire starter because I'm like, let's do it. But I feel like what's really missing in the first step is to slow down and to connect to the compassion and the non-harming, and then to see what are we really wanting? What are we really desiring? And then find that, make that space with those intentions, and then see the magic that happens as you do that.
That sounds so beautiful. It sounds very intentional, and and I think that I know when I started my business, it was kind of moving slow, but I had different types of mentors and along the way, and I started out with a lot of push, you got to push, you got to, and I didn't actually resonate with that. So I think it's really important that you share that. I eventually moved from that into a more kind of feminine way of doing things that really just resonated with my soul. But I love the fact that you share that in terms of yoga. So for anyone who's listening, who's thinking about starting a business, this is a great way to begin and not feel this anxiety. How do you deal with some of those emotions with your clients? I think that's kind of an important question because that's always the first thing, we're jumping into the water. We don't know what we're doing, and then you're slow down. We're like, wait, how can I slow down? Nothing's going on,
Totally. How do I slow down? Nothing's going on. I love that. Well, one of the biggest things I like to talk about is with money. So it's always going back to the truth. What's really the truth? What's really the truth? What's really the truth? Take a deep breath. First things first, take a deep breath. And then what's the truth? Okay. And there's a couple fundamental truths that we need to remember. First one is that one of them is that the universe is abundant. Okay. That is a fact. So, and that is the truth. Now we have been trained to think that it's not. We've been trained to think that that there's lack, right? That there's not enough, that if we want to be able to be taken care of, we have to X, Y, and Z. But that's just not true. So a lot of the time, it's really just, when people have that anxiety, or I'm working with clients when they're bringing anxiety, it's like really just a matter of like slowing down and feeling your body in this moment, feeling that everything's okay right now. You are safe, like you are abundant, there's enough. You have enough water, yes. You have enough food, yes. Okay, like we're good. It's like reality check, So that's first, and like the truth of the abundant quality of nature. And I do a practice where I guide my clients to unplug from like society keeping us safe, like the safety of society, and plug back into the earth. So we do it like energetically, like pull the plug out from the system, and feeling like if we don't have enough money to pay the system to give us what we need, then we won't be okay. And replugging back into Mama Earth, and remembering that we are creatures of the earth, and the earth always provides for us, and that's where everything comes from. Things don't come from the system. Right. The system is a channel through which we get things from the earth, actually. So the source is right there, and it's right here all the time. So you have to energetically unplug and then plug back in. So once we know that and we accept that, then it becomes a lot easier to like handle the limiting beliefs that arise, because those beliefs will continue to arise even when we know that we're unplugged. Like it's a matter of then changing our habits and our belief systems and our energy body, like shifting it. And then the other fundamental truth is like we're safe. It's like the universe is abundant, and we're safe, and we'll always be safe. Even when we die, we'll be safe. So that's another place that I visit with people sometimes, is like, what if you're on your deathbed? Like, what would you want for yourself right now? What if you had already died? Like, what would you feel? And that takes us on a bird's eye view, and helps us to see that we don't need to panic, that it's actually better if we don't panic. So when we understand those fundamental truths, then we can talk about limiting beliefs and what is really true for us and for each individual person. What's true for you? How do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? And when you feel the way that you want to feel, then your business is going to respond to that. When you feel good, when you're enjoying your life, when you remember the true nature of reality, and you're actually spending your days like in pleasure, then you're going to magnetize your clients. Like you're going to have to do way less work on marketing when you're a magnet. When you're a magnet, things can't help but like come towards you. So, that then we get it out of our head that we need to spend, 20 hours a week on marketing. And we realize we need to spend 15 hours a week on pure pleasure, 2 hours a week on marketing. And then the rest can be in our creation.
Right. Yes. I love that. That's really beautiful. That's a wonderful tip for anyone who's listening. I'll see if I can put that into the notes. I want to talk about the yoga teacher training that you're doing. If you could give us some more information. I know that's coming up. So, let us know what's the info.
Okay, awesome. So I've been teaching yoga teacher trainings in person for quite a few years now. And I had the amazing opportunity to do a filming. So I professionally filmed like half the course, like a little bit less than half the course. And the other half will be live sessions / recorded audio sessions / like workshops on Zoom. And it's going to start in August 1st. We start. So it's going to be 20 people. We're going to move through it in a group. It's a 200-hour yoga teacher training online for 20 weeks. So it's around 9 hours of work per week. So you can really do it in your own free time. And it's really an amazing way. Like, I love the frontal like work, you know, doing it in person is amazing. But the problem that I've seen with doing it in person is that people will come to the studio and they'll do their yoga, and then when they go home, it's like they're back home and back to normal life. And especially with more intensive trainings, it's like you go to the studio, you have your yoga there, and then you go home and it's kind of gone. So what I'm so excited about with the online teacher training is that it gives people a chance to really integrate the yoga into their home, into their bodies, and into their life. So yeah, I feel like I'm just so excited to finally, you know, be able to give this gift to people that are outside of my small bubble, and help like the world integrate the yoga into their life. So then you can do things like apply the yoga to your business, or apply the yoga to your relationship with your husband or your wife, you know, or all those things. It's so useful. So yeah, so we're starting August 1st, and I'll put a link so people can check out some
Yeah,
more
definitely.
information.
If they're interested. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about next was how, I mean, you talked about it in business and, you know, I think it could be applied to anything, right? You know, when you're walking on the street, you know, you're in a state of, you know, I like to talk about meditation, but, you know, I assume you could interchange that into yoga, you know, how you just are in that state of, you know, maybe you could describe it better since you are you do it more often with yoga. So how could you integrate it? So we talked about business, and we talked about the self. And what about, like how you said, moving from the yoga mat into the world? How do we do that?
Mm, okay. I love this question. And there's actually a book by a woman named Donna Farhi, that's called Bringing Yoga to Life. Which has really, I read it in the beginning of my journey, and still to this day, I think about some of the things that she wrote in there. So I definitely recommend that for people that are interested in really dialing in how to bring your practice off the mat and into life. Um, I think what comes to mind right now is that when we're on the mat, we are encouraged in my approach to yoga. I encourage my students, and when I'm practicing, I encourage myself to be curious. And it's really about moving through the practice, not from a place of performing, or from a place of needing to fill a certain shape. Okay, and this might be the problem that's kind of happening in the mainstream yoga, is like, you know, we see Instagram and we have certain bodies, and, you know, that's a yogi. And the truth is that it's not about that at all. Okay, actually, the yoga movements are not yoga, it's a preparation for yoga. And yoga is what happens when you find stillness and you go within and you go deep. So the yoga postures, it is yoga, yeah, but it's a build up to a deeper yoga, which is stillness and studying the nature of reality and understanding more about who we really are and what is consciousness, and what is, you know, what are we doing here? Why did we come here? What's our purpose? And also seeing the temporary nature of everything, that nothing is going to stay. Everything is going to leave one day. You know, this reality that we're in, the trees, this desk, this computer, it's all going to be stardust again one day. So it's this idea of non-attachment. And Osho says it too, like life is a joke, you know, it's just it's like this humor, it's this play, it's this game that's going on. So when we're on our mats and we're studying and we're moving the body, you know, we want to look at it as a place of study, as a place of curiosity. Like, oh, how does my arm feel today? Oh, how should I move so that it feels the most integrity? Oh, there's some weird sensation there that wasn't there yesterday. Oh, I wonder what that is. Let's like explore it. And instead of being kind of a war against yourself, which it could also become, right? Like, oh, my arm is so weak, you know, or my hips are so tight. Why is that? You know, and the dialogue should go more towards the curiosity. And that's what I encourage for my students. And I think that skilled yoga teachers do the same. And so the way that can translate to, you know, going out on the street and walking to the store, or like, you know, taking your kids to school is this curiosity and this knowing that everything is going to disappear one day. Everything is going to go, it's temporary. So we don't need to take life so seriously. We don't need to have so many expectations on ourselves or on what the world should be or what we should be. It's like we should have more curiosity, like, oh, what is that? What is that? What is that? Oh, that's interesting. And that just brings this mindset of playfulness and ease, which then helps lead the way towards pleasure and bliss. So I guess the word here really is curiosity, and the knowing that it's all temporary, and when we feel ourselves attaching or shrinking around things, and this is why we practice on the mat, because sometimes that happens, and that's okay. Like, it's okay that it happens, but that we realize that it's happening, and then we're like, oh, I don't need to do that. I can actually relax. I can actually just be curious.
Right. I love that. Actually, while you were speaking, I remember it when I was in India and we were sitting in an ashram and she was telling us the yogi that was in charge of the place. But she was like, we focus on the asanas, right? The postures, where that's not really it at all. It is, you could say it's a consciousness that we're shifting our consciousness, we're being present. I know when anyone is doing yoga, when I do it as well, it's like I'm just present with each and every movement that I'm doing. I focus on the breath, or, and however you decide you do your training, I would assume like that is what at least I feel that is most important in each and every moment of my life, is when the thoughts are moving, is to get back into the breath or into just the present moment. That's all that is. Really, that's all that is. Whatever was, whatever will be, we don't know. We're just in this moment, with each other right now.
Exactly. And that the breath piece is huge. And it's like the keystone. If you're breathing, you're doing yoga. Doesn't matter if you're a paraplegic, quadriplegic, if you're breathing, you're doing yoga. And that's why I said too earlier, like when we have those panic moments in business, like just take a deep breath. Like, let's start with taking a nice deep breath, and the same thing, when we're out and about and something happens, like take a deep breath and come back. Yeah, it's a really important piece. Thank you for saying that.
Right. No, thank you very much. And I would also add, I'm collaborating with a few people on moving from patriarchy to sovereignty, and I feel like yoga is a part of that. Moving out of these, like you said, limiting belief. Where do they come from? They came from our generations. They came from an ideology that doesn't resonate anymore. And for those of us who are moving into different states of consciousness. So by doing yoga, by looking at yoga as a business practice, as a way to create, I went through the birthing of my business in a circle, a sacred circle. And so that it's the same type of thing, circular movement where you're thinking about things in a different manner. So I really liked how you brought that up and how you shared your process with us, because I think that the more that we can see things as like, and everything that we do, whether we fail or we succeed, there are no extremes. There just is. You're just always in this motion, and it depends on your idea to think things through. Actually, I think the most times when I didn't do well, I was uncovering something else, so, I think that, like that curiosity that you mentioned, I think that was perfect. Because then you're like curious, oh, why didn't it come out to be whatever I wanted it to be?
Yeah.
You might learn something from that.
Right. And all like the extremes that you mentioned are just a human judgment on the situation. Like everything just is. I really resonate with that. And, we don't need to label it or say this is, and that's where the sovereignty piece comes in, right? Like each one of us is our own being. And, we don't need to get so entangled and enmeshed with other people through the judgments and the expectations and the need for them to be a certain way in order for us to be happy. Like, and that's where the yoga really leads to sovereignty, which I love it. It's like, I am okay no matter what.
Right.
It's about me. It's about me, and not in a selfish way. It's about me in the sense of being fulfilled and of me being most concerned with my own peace. And when I am concerned with my own peace, then everyone else can feel it and they get more peaceful.
Right, right. And I think that whole idea that lends well to what you just said is this interdependence. We're without even the idea of competition, like you have something to offer, we have something to offer, we can offer it together, we can offer it separately. But, we're all part of, like we said from the beginning, like you talked about with nature, we're all part of that energy. We need Mother Earth in order to exist. It's not the systems, as you mentioned earlier. And we need our own curiosity or creativity in order to move forward collectively. Without Ashley here, without me, it just wouldn't be the same. We're on this earth for a purpose. And if we do not listen to that purpose, seriously, everyone listening, step in, because we need you. We really need you to move forward. If you're feeling this energy, if you're feeling this, if you're resonating with Ashley, like step in, connect with her, do the next step, take the action. Part of yoga, I believe, is also taking the action. It's thinking the thought and then taking the inspired action. That's what creates this movement. So that is really, really exciting.
Amen. Yes, take the action and do it. Like that is, I feel, the biggest medicine that the planet is drinking right now, is like the medicine of purpose, the medicine of each one, stepping into their own creator of their own destiny. And it's, if you take anything from this conversation, like take that, like what lights you up, what turns you on, what makes you feel the life juice. And what's so interesting is like, what can help us to know what makes us feel the life juice is thinking about a moment that we almost died. Like thinking about a near-death experience that we've had, or like we thought we're gonna die in that moment, and then realize that deep down inside we have this beautiful will to live. And there's a reason why. So go there and think about that with yourself and find that out, like what makes you want to keep living, and follow the breadcrumbs from there.
Yes, such a beautiful way to close. Is there anything else you'd like to share in terms of how people can contact you? Oh, I know you had a free offer, if you want to share that with the audience.
Yeah, so I have a little mini training of creating your own life, which includes a video and an audio guided meditation of around 20 minutes, and also a PDF with journal questions to work through, which is kind of a little initiation into coaching or doing yoga trainings or different trainings with me. And it's kind of that first step of like, okay, where am I at right now in terms of my level of creating my life, of being the craftsman of my own reality? And so everyone's in kind of a different place with that. Some of us are really in the beginning. Some of us are like, we've known this for a while and we're working with it. So it's good for everybody, because it's just a check-in to see where you're at right now, and then stepping into that next level of being the creator of your life. So that's a free offering that I have. You can sign up for it really easily with the link on my website. And it's a great tool for anyone to just go deeper.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And all that information will be in the details. Those of you who are listening on the audio or watching the YouTube, everything will be here. And Ashley, I know her personally, so she's really, really easy to get along with and very open. So I'm sure if you have any questions, you can ask her, and she'd be more than happy. I'm very excited about your online yoga teacher training. I think it's much needed. Different perspectives are really, really essential. So I'm really glad you're doing that. I'll definitely put it in the notes here where they can register or ask questions or find out more about that. So very, very excited for you. And yeah, I feel like we're in this energy, right? We're walking right now. This is filmed on the 4th of May. So we're going into the 5-5 portal, and, intense new energies. I'm sure everyone's feeling it, this like wanting to create, wanting to change old habits, and knowing that we can do this together. And when I started this series, like I actually I was really kind of at my wit's end, and I was like, let me just start a YouTube series, and here it is, it's still there. So I'm just really happy that it's kind of in line with the energy at the moment. And as I mentioned, I'm doing a book collaboration that will, an anthology with 10 other authors, moving from patriarchy into sovereignty. And it's going to talk about power relationships, how we've moved from various situations in our lives of power and abuse, and how by stepping out of that and doing the healing allowed us to step into unconditional love and sovereignty. So I'm very, very excited about that project, as well as other group mentoring and personal mentoring that I do. You can find on my website. And yeah, I'm just happy to have you here, Ashley. And maybe before the online program begins or after, I'd love to have you on again to share some of that with our audience.
I love that so much. Thank you, Gila, for the amazing work that you do. And thanks for having me. It's been so fun to connect with you and play. And I love just bouncing with you. It's really great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks again.